welcome everyone to a deep look into the paranormal where mystery meets insight. I'm your host, Jennifer Wills, and my co host is David Wills, my wonderful husband. Say hello.
Hello, everybody.
I kind of put you on the spot there, didn't I?
You
Um,
said don't speak if you're chewing, and you immediately asked me while I'm chewing. Sorry, everybody. This is our redo. I haven't eaten yet today. I do apologize.
yes, this is definitely our redo because last time his voice did not uh, record. So we will be getting everything and talking about Waverly Hills and what's gone on there in the past to present day. And hopefully you enjoy it. Feel free to hit the follow button if you're watching us live. Hit, um, you can join us in chat, ask questions. Feel free to inquire about our Discord. We do have a Discord on Facebook if you want to join on that, as well as YouTube. We'll be putting this up on YouTube. So hit the like button if you like, dislike if you dislike, and don't forget to subscribe there either. Um, right now it is 6:40 p.m. Okay. Today's session is about Waverly Hills Sanatorium, the history, the rather dark history of it. It started out peaceful and became very dark very quickly for many reasons. Um, it was first known as Waverly Hill, and but we'll go over that here very shortly. The land was known as Waverly Hills was purchased by Major Tom Hayes in 1883 as a family home. Um, it was a very luxurious home, a very big home, almost like a manor, to the point where it was also known as an estate. Um, since it was so far out of the way from any neighboring houses or towns, um, Mr. Hayes decided to open a local school for his daughters that he had with his wonderful wife to educate them close by so that they could still, receive what they needed to academically. Um, he also hired Mrs. Harris to teach at the local schoolhouse. Mrs. Harris is the one who actually named the school Waverly School after Walter Scott Waverly's novels, which Mr. Hayes liked the peaceful sound of it and how it rolled off the tongue. So he actually named the entire property Waverly Hills.
I
Major,
didn't ask this before, but what are the novels about?
I did not actually look that up. That's actually a good question.
I'll check on that.
Probably, yeah, definitely check on that if you can and let us know. Um, Major Hayes eventually, when the family moved on, and his passing, Mr. Hayes's family sold the estate to the Board of Tuberculosis Hospital, which opened in 1910, and it was closed in 1961 so it was open for a span of 51 years. However, during that span, it took a huge, major, um, like renovation, a metamorphosis in a way, you could say. That's a good use of that word, I think. Um, it went from an estate manor house to a 5-story massive structure. Um, Jefferson County was one of the first counties in the area that was severely stricken with tuberculosis, which is a bacteria or virus infection, bacterial infection of the lungs. It was originally called consumption, which is like you sit here, you're coughing, and then you start coughing up blood and things like that. It was a form of excess. Like they believed it was due to excess, like excess drinking, drugs, smoking. But what they didn't realize it was actually the wet, boggish, swampy areas around the area that caused the bacterial issue to be prevalent. It like you know how a mosquito can pick up a virus or what have you and spread it to a person by a bite. And I'm not saying
Hmm.
it's a mosquito that did it, but once one person gets it and it starts coughing and what have you, and it's been around people, these other people's then start becoming infected, and so on and so forth. And it's a snowball effect. People get sick. It spreads like
Well,
wildfire.
that in a long, long time ago, they used to blame this on the poor, simply because the people who were exposed to the worst health conditions were
Yes.
the poor. But this disease did not discriminate.
No, it did not.
Uh,
It. You're right about that because the poor didn't have necessarily the luxury of having some of the finer things in life, like running water,
Fresh water.
fresh water, yeah, just to bathe in or take care of other bodily functions.
You
And
gotta remember, there was a time where people bathed maybe once a month or once a year.
or went out to the lake or rivers to do it, yeah. And even that was not necessarily a great idea. It was pretty bad. Um, because also at this time they did not understand what it was or how bad it was. They didn't have medicine for it at all. That's why in 1911 the city of Louisville began to plan out an idea to make a new hospital in hopes of treating it, but then they're like, maybe that's not such a good idea, and especially with pulmonary tuberculosis. So they sent the Board of Tuberculosis an additional $25,000 to erect a place for treatment solely for the purpose of treating tuberculosis and keeping the infected away from the healthy. Because once you went to Waverly Hills Sanatorium, you were not permitted to leave. Not even the hospital staff were allowed to leave. They lived on premises just to prevent it from spreading. So if they got any bodily fluids or anything like that on them, they would actually have to strip after doing whatever they were doing and throw their clothes in an incinerator just to keep themselves from being infected. And that always wasn't successful. Even they came down with it, which was sad and unfortunate, but someone had to do it.
Yeah,
Um,
and the worst part of it, and I think I mentioned this last time, is it being a bacterial infection means your body does not build up immunities to this. You either survive it or you die. And if you survive it, you can re-catch it almost immediately. There's
this,
no chance of just, oh, I'm immune.
yeah, no, unfortunately, not with this. And usually, when he caught it, it was a death sentence. It was honestly a death sentence because it progressed rapidly, and it was very unfortunate. Um, on August 31st, 1912, any patient within the city hospital was, as we said, relocated to this site after they had finished building the massive 5-story structure. Because of the overwhelming need for space, as well as 400 beds, the urgency was greatly persistent up until it reopened up on October 17th, 1926. The once small tuberculosis hospital of Waverly Hill now was an impressive 5 stories. The reason it took so long is they need to basically remake that manor home, that establishment that it first used, because it was purely wooden. They needed something that would last, that would be durable through time, weather, and all of the seasons. And wood doesn't necessarily hold up that well over time. It it does hold up, but it eventually becomes brittle, and eventually decomposes.
They were looking for the long term,
Yeah, they were looking at the
and back then, long
bigger
term
picture.
meant brick.
Yeah, brick, concrete, stone, anything that would last a lot longer than wood would. Did I just really say that?
Wood.
Yeah.
We'll let we'll let this one pass.
Funny.
Uh huh.
After uh, another building was erected on site, giving another 40 beds for the TB. Um, and TB is short for tuberculosis, but these structures were connected to the hospital itself. So when we show you start going over the pictures, you will see a blueprint of how weirdly designed it is. Um, they also added a section for the children that were inflicted with the disease. They also had a nursery for the patients who gave birth there, and most of the time, even the babies caught it, which was unfortunate. Like I said, you weren't allowed to leave once you were there, and it's sad because they that means you don't get visitors other than the sick person next to you on either side, or the doctors and nurses. Um, by October 17th, 1926, and after the introduction of streptomycin in 1943, the number of TB cases began to lower, and there was no need for such a big hospital. By 1961, they removed the remaining patients and sent them to Hazelwood Sanatorium. And by such actions, Waverly was closed due to lack of funding and antibiotics. Because if they don't have the patients to take care of, they're not going to give you the funding to do anything else. You either make it or break. Um, while Waverly Hills Sanatorium was still open to patients, could not have visitors. Um, to protect the patients and facility and staff morale, when the patients unfortunately did pass, they made or they brought what they did is they would bring the bodies down to the morgue, which we will also go over, and waited until nighttime to get them to a tunnel system where they eventually brought them to a body chute to bring
Yeah,
them for removal. Because
because I
not as
believe they said
yeah, go ahead.
before they built that chute,
Mm-hmm.
you could see the line of hearses stretching the whole way back to the main road.
Yeah, and it's that's nothing you want to see. That is nothing, especially when you're sick, to see that and know that that might potentially be your fate. It could
That
be
you're not
very
leaving
demoralizing.
here in a car, you're leaving here in a hearse.
Yeah, it's definitely depressing. So they wanted to protect that and try to get the patients to think positively. Um, the chute itself was over 525 feet long, and it was at a descent, so that way it would go out through the tunnel down the chute to assess train tracks where the bodies were then. Excuse me, that was a burp. Um,
Sounds like a dog barking in the background.
no, I burped and covered my mouth. It was taken off by a set of train tracks or a train or some kind of service to elsewhere. More than likely, either to a massive burial ground or maybe to a crematorium where they could just incinerate the bodies. Um, during this time, when the tuberculosis hospital was open, a lot of patients that were expected not to live, the ones who were really sick, were often experimented on in inhumane ways. They would get daily doses, not daily doses. The ones that were thought to maybe potentially survive would get daily doses of sunshine and fresh air in hopes of curing TB or allowing it to help the process. Um, but some of the other ones the ones that were believed not to make it, they would actually be cut open and have their rib cage removed so that their lungs could expand. Because TB caused swelling and inflammation, which is,
Their thought was if they got the oxygen in there, you could survive.
and a lot of people didn't survive that. Sometimes they went in with tubing along the side to try and get some of the fluid and whatnot that was maybe building up to hopefully allow your lungs to expand. Um, they did a lot of experimentation. They also, once you pass, not everyone would be sent to the morgue. Some of them would be, at least in one piece, some of them would be opened up and examined. They would study this disease and the different stages of it. Um, they look at the tissues, the way the lungs are, the way it was affecting your body through basically in a weird way, not so much an autopsy, but kind of like think about like science, like a science classroom where they opened up frogs to see what they looked like on the inside and to study them, which is unfortunate, but that's what they were
Well,
doing here. But
yeah,
that's,
and we kind of understand why on some level. I mean,
yes.
on some level, it's they're hoping that if they find a cure, it's the lives that can be saved. So the sacrifice of one person's body versus the. Do we have a number on the number of people who died every day of TB back then?
No, but we do have a number, expect or approximate number of how many died overall.
Okay. So just think of one life versus that number whenever it comes up.
Yeah, and I understand the need to study things, but where I kind of would have drawn the line is how they went about it, because they did it in secret. Whenever someone died, they would not tell their loved ones that they were experimented on. They would just tell them, "Oh, died due to complications of tuberculosis," when their experiments killed them.
Yeah, it's hard to. There are some people who are generally trying to help. There are other people who are taking advantage of a situation to progress their own goals.
And the sad thing about it is, even while they're helping these people, there are some of them who are just dark, sadistic, nasty people um, that wanted to abuse these people. Some did unspeakable things to them. Um, but then you get that pretty much anywhere you go. But but when you're stuck in a place, things like this are gonna happen, and
Yeah,
it's
that's
unfortunate.
think of how short the time period was for the Astro Bowl after the hurricane and
Yes.
how bad things got there. Think of that stretched out over years. There was a facade of civility,
Mhm.
but there's just hundreds, thousands of people fighting for another breath, and the people there are, mm, well, sometimes the people that were working there because they couldn't work anywhere else.
That's true. Which are a good portion of the orderlies and attendants, the nurses and doctors did were licensed. Maybe some of them weren't. Maybe that's the reason why they did some of the nasty things they did. I don't know. I do know that there were thousands of souls that were lost there that way, um, due to tuberculosis, experimentation, suicide, um, which is unfortunate. So it did a number on everyone's mental health, and
I
definitely.
have an answer for you from earlier.
Okay, what is that?
The historical novels,
Mm-hmm.
they were historical fantasy based on a mix of fictional and historical characters. Many of them focused on a single historical event that was taking place and sort of like the lives that were happening around it through real people and fake people.
Okay, this is kind of like a a romance thing or fantasy uh, genre.
Definitely fantasy. It's just set in historical periods.
That's not bad.
Uh,
That's okay. A historical fantasy. Um, but the building at that time had already begun to deteriorate when it was closed. So they weren't focused on repairs at all. They just did their day to day stuff. And after they closed
New
it,
paint was not in the projected budget of the year.
no, new paint was not. The building in 1962 was refurbished and reopened as Woodhaven Geriatric Center, a nursing home treating aging patients with various stages of dementia, mobility issues, and the severely mentally handicapped. And people who go into that need to understand that the patients don't know better. Not every one of them. But yet they were still treated like guinea pigs, like they were less than who they are. And if you're someone who suffers from that or knows someone who suffered from any of those kind of issues, you know, get help. Don't suffer alone. Um, there is a national suicide line. There is a also all sorts of mental health for those who with in or without insurance. So please do get help. Don't and if you see something, say something. Especially if you see abuse, because no one deserves what these people went through. Um, but they too failed their patients primarily because the staff was highly outnumbered. Um, they closed. They were eventually closed by the state of Kentucky for a severe patient neglect in 1980. It was eventually purchased in 1983 by Samson developer J. Clifford Todd for $3,005,000. He and his architect Milton Thompson wanted to convert it into a mini security prison. That didn't fare too well with the surrounding communities because no one wants the possibility of bad people getting out and escaping and causing more problems, more unfortunate mishaps and or um, unfortunate losses. So,
You know how it is. Everyone wants the bad person to go to prison until the prison is your backyard.
yeah, correctional facilities and institutions are a necessity, yes, but where are they gonna go if they don't have can't be right there type of situation? But unfortunately the populace in the surrounding areas did win um, because they did protest a lot. Jefferson's
Okay. I'm sorry. This just kicked me in the head.
what?
Hospital to insane asylum to prison. It's like you're trying to build a haunted spot.
Well,
It's like
given
the
well, I understand what you're saying. Um, but think about this on the grander scheme of things, okay? You've got all these different emotions and what have you building up over this place. Of course, it's gonna have some residual, if not intelligent, um, paranormal effects. Um, you've got, and the thing that I find interesting is, cleanliness wasn't always a priority. So if you think about it, you've gone from a hospital TB who basically
focused on trying to keep things clean.
to
They
a
try to
point
disinfect. Yeah.
tried. Then you got the the geriatric center that also treated dementia patients, mentally ill, mentally handicapped, or had mobility issues, and they were outnumbered. So you know they didn't keep things clean. So you still got traces of TB there, plus that, and then going to the supposed prison make. They should. I believe. I want to believe that they thoroughly cleaned everything as best as their abilities in between, occupancies. Don't
I
you
would
think?
hope so.
Yeah, because you kind of start thinking about that. Um, Jefferson Financial Court support was sought to secure 140 acres surrounding the property for another 400,000 to start the project, which was later abandoned. Um, in March of 1996, Robert Alberhasky or Alberhasky, Alberhasky, bought Waverly Hills and the surrounding grounds under the Alberhasky Christ Redeemer Foundation. He had a huge ambitions for the place that would come in two stages. He wanted to create the world's largest Jesus statue on top of the sanatorium and have the building converted into a chapel, theater, and gift shop. His is a very religious fellow. However, his envision was sparked from, I believe it's the Rio de Janeiro
I
statue
was
of
gonna
Jesus.
say, yeah,
Yeah.
the big outstretched arms.
Yes. He wanted to build one bigger than that on top of Waverly Hills. Um, the statue would be
You
100.
know what they say? Everything's bigger in America.
Well, uh, North America and the United States,
Yeah,
because there's South America, Central America, North America. Um,
in the states.
in the states, yes. The statue was 150 feet tall, and or would be 150 feet tall and 150 feet wide, at a cost of 4 million. Stage two conversion would cost another 8 million. That's a lot of money. And not just that, but if you think about it, you've got all this pent up energy there. And usually with paranormal activity, whenever you start doing renovation, that's usually when the spirits get kicked up. Because some of them don't like change. Plans fell through because they could only raise $3,000 for said projects nationwide, and plans terminated in December of 1997.
See, they didn't have Joel Osteen, so
Oh, good lord.
that's what he said.
Mm-mm-mm. In 2001, the Waverly Hills Sanatorium was purchased by Tina and Charlie Mattingly. Um, I'm not sure if they're the current resident owners of this the facility, but they are remarkable people. They're trying to save the building from being demolished. Um, so they offer ghost tours, and haunted events through through these events and concerts and what have you. All the proceeds went back to the building restoration. They didn't pocket any of that. They did what they had to the building to keep it, safe and sound. The Due to how much people turned up for the concerts, though, and all the noise, the surrounding areas did complain, and they were forced to cancel the concerts, but they could still do the ghost tours, which they still do to this day, both private and public. Um, and overall, though, it is believed that with all the different setups that were there with the patients and the various stages of things, was believed to be 63,000 deaths based on records found, but real estimates range from 6,000 to 123,000 pair souls over the years.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, most notable and most notable deaths of Waverly Hills. Room 502. A nurse at the age of 29 hung herself from a light fixture outside of the room. Mind you, she was in charge of helping the children who were sick, inflicted with tuberculosis or TB, and she did that right in front of them. They may have been asleep at the time, um, or they may not have, but they were right in the other room when she did this. Um, but she was extremely depressed. She was actually unmarried, but she found herself pregnant, and she was believed to be a victim of unconsensual relationships, and she couldn't take it. She didn't want to raise a life um, in that kind of situation she was in. Also, being unmarried, it just took a real big toll on her. What, whoever, I'm sorry, whoever did this to her actually got away with it. They're never
Yeah,
able
because
to.
wasn't there and also speculation that she may have just been hung
Yes,
by someone else? Because from
by
where
the
I remember,
father of the said baby.
yeah, uh, there was no like pull up mechanic. She was just hung there, but there was no chair in that room for her to have been able to stand on.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Which is another.
Okay.
No, no, I completely agree with you. Which would get, if you look at it that way, would make you think she may have been murdered. Her story is still to this day unsolved. I just know that she's unfortunately deceased, and that happened in 1928. Um, they're just not sure if it was a doctor, a patient, or an orderly that did it.
Oh, if you went there for the 100-year anniversary, that'd
Uh,
be an investigation.
yeah. Another nurse actually mentally snapped as well. She didn't attack anyone, but she leapt to her death from the roof of the building, which is sad. That's the reason why mental health is so important. You need to, if you're suffering, get help. Don't let it fester by any means. Um, a man wa- a man and his dog was also found to be inhabiting the building or facility, and the owners tried chasing him out, but he'd still return. And when they saw how nice and neat he kept his room, they allowed him to stay as long as he kept other trespassers out, which he agreed to, and they'd bring him food and things like that. However, they noticed that he went missing sometime later, and there was a really bad odor emanating from the elevator shaft. And apparently, it is unfortunately rumored, not proven yet, that a few teenagers broke in, or young adults broke in, and bullied him and shoved him and his dog down the elevator shaft to their deaths.
If you want to know more about that, there is an investigation. There are suspects who were named but never actually confirmed. It was three kids from a local high school that were named and looked into, but they just could not find that evidence.
There's,
If anyone's interested in a deeper dive into that, whenever we do something along a true crime sort of level,
mm-hmm,
just let us know. I mean that's definitely an interesting topic, and it's our wheelhouse adjacent.
yes, that is very true. Or if you have any other uh, paranormal things or true crime, definitely feel free to drop us a line. Um, but yeah, there's, I believe one of them was eventually caught, and two died by train tracks. How? I don't know. Um,
Well, in
go on.
one of the documentaries that I watched,
Yeah.
there was a full like look into to see if something paranormal may have been following them to influence why they were on those train tracks.
Yeah, they believe it was the man and his dog's spirit. Some people do believe that. He and his dog are actually some of the shadowy like figures walking around still to this day in the halls. He was kind of a big fella, and his dog was like, I don't want to say German Shepherd. It was a white dog, but
Yeah,
it
it
was
was small. It was no poodle.
no, but it was a large dog. Um, but yeah, he's also seen there. A boy may have been accidentally murdered while there. The type of haunts are intelligent, which you get a noticeable reaction, an actual intelligent response. Residual, someone who walks around or does things and is completely oblivious to the surroundings, doesn't even know you're there. Of course, demonic, which are the growlers, the angry entities, which are primarily found near and around the body chute. Children's spirits can be heard laughing, running around, playing. Of course, shadow people. Um, those who are reportedly haunted this place, besides the nurse, um, is Timothy O'Shea, or Timmy O'Shea as he went by, whom likes to play catch with visitors. He likes to play with the ball, roll it, toss it, what have you. Um, an unknown little girl who runs up and down the third floor in the building is believed to be residual. She's just playing. A doctor surgeon in a white lab coat can be seen walking into the operating room. That is also believed to be a residual haunt because he's believes he is still performing his duties even afterwards. Because even if you are, say you're working at a place for a very long time, you put your life, your time, your energy into it, you're going to leave some kind of imprint in the facility or building. You are. And it's that imprint that may turn into an entity of you later on. Um, Possibly. Not for sure. There is a ghost chef in the kitchen who is continuously making food. A woman with a slashed wrist running down the hall screaming. There's a mystery man in white drifting through the halls. Maybe a former doctor or possible patient. Shadow people throughout, disembodied voices, screams, laughter, faces appearing in the rooms of empty sections. Um, Lights seen going on and off when there's no electricity provided to the building. Doors opening and closing of their own accord, almost like slamming. Of course, you got your footsteps, orbs, the man and his dog. It is definitely a historical significant type of place. It's got a lot of history to it. They do because of the building itself. You want to be respectful whenever you're going because you don't know what you're going to run into. You want to make sure you do so when going there that you've got consent from the owners. You don't want to break in because sometimes that can trigger the gentleman and his dog. Um,
And just don't break in. Don't be that
it's
person.
yeah, don't be that person. It's also against the law, and they have security cameras set up. They will arrest you.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, if you want in there, there are so many ways to get there legally. The owners are really cool about that.
yeah, they are. They also offer private and public investigations too. Um, to get to to get the whole building to yourself and 9 of your friends, just say for a guided tour and private investigation is around $1,000. They may have increased their rates, inflation, what have you, but that's actually not bad for 10 people.
I believe I looked at this last time because, like
Mm-hmm.
we said, this is the Redux, and no, they were still offering them. You could still order the overnights, but they also had daytime investigations. They were cheaper. and they had like a youth special as well too for like youth groups.
Yeah. And to let everyone know, ghosts don't have a timetable. They're active whenever they're able enough to have enough energy to do so, or whenever they want. So it could be any time of day or night.
You know what? That just gave me an idea.
What?
Why there might be so many more ghost sightings at night is because when is your adrenaline higher?
At night,
When are
because
you putting off more energy?
yeah, more than likely it'd be at night.
Yeah, the more scared you are, the more energy you put out, the more energy they have access to.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if that's I
Because
wonder
if
if
you
that's one
can't
of the reasons.
see all the way, or in your area, you're gonna be prone to having a little bit of a fear spike, and that's the
Yeah.
energy they use. They can use any energy, but you may say, "Oh, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid." There is a part of you that will always be afraid.
Well, that just it. Whenever you get a spike of adrenaline,
Mm-hmm.
you become hypersensitive to the world around you. It is your flight or fight response. It is
Yes.
making you more aware. Who's to say
Exactly.
that you're not just accessing something that now gives you that awareness?
Exactly. But speaking of Waverly Hills, how about we take a photo tour, so to speak?
Ooh, what's this going to cost us?
Just your soul
We're
sign at the
taking
bottom.
no.
Okay. 29.95.
Okay, I'll give you 29.95 piece of salt.
Okay. No. Alrighty, folks.
How
You
about
can.
the like button? Can we just the
Yes.
cost per tour is the like button?
The
Can we just say
like
that?
button.
Yeah, that'd be great.
The
We'd greatly
follow
appreciate
button.
that.
Like and follow. Or
Oh, you
subscribe.
see, you're upping the price on them, but I think it's worth it.
Okay. I think so
It's
too.
a little for them, but it's a lot for us.
Yes. This is just the outside currently of Waverly Hills. It is pretty dreary, depressing, but it is just looking at you. I mean, sure, it looks like an abandoned building. It looks, like I said, depressing and dreary. Um, but just to think of the beauty of what it looked like when it was in in action or open, um, and just the idea of the structure and how they did this is pretty. I think pretty amazing. It's definitely got a lot of characteristics to it.
Yeah, I saw full comments when we get into like the full outline and the way that building looks, the blueprints.
Yes, this is what the original manor used to look like.
See, now that's beautiful.
What Major Hayes did, that he built for his family, his daughters, his wife. Um, it
That's like a
was
lodge that would you just want to stay at.
yeah, like a private resort type of thing. Um, that eventually turned into the first tuberculosis hospital in Jefferson County. But of course, they needed more room. Here is the blueprint.
Yeah, and the first time I saw this, I got struck by a similarity.
Go ahead.
Um, if you look at this and you look at pictures of the Big Dipper and Little Dipper, this matches up in a very peculiar way to parts of the Big Dipper. And it reminded me how certain certain architectures based on uh, astrology
Mm-hmm.
are places of power. Like the pyramids in Egypt,
Yes.
if you look at them from the sky, you actually see they kind of match Orion's belt. Why didn't they make them in straight lines? Because Orion's belt is not in a straight line. Stonehenge, one
Mm-hmm.
of the theories behind it is it has meaning celestially.
That and
If you're look if you're looking at a place of power that has ley, ley lines, that you're trying to focus strange energies, why would you build this building of suffering in this way? there's no geological reference for them to have made it like this. It's not like it's going next to a stream where there's bedrock. It's a flat plateau.
The only thing I can think of, the reason why they did it this way, is because, say, this is the main house, okay? And they built the school over here, let's say. And then they built another thing, and they patchworked it together. That's the only other thing I could think of. They basically patched it all together so it's one big giant building.
Could you blow this up for me? I want to see if there's a maker's mark down here in the bottom.
That's
No,
about
not
as,
that we can count.
yeah, nothing
Yeah.
that we can make out.
So if I see someone who's a known mason doing this, then I'm calling BS.
No, I can
And
believe it. I can believe it. I'm just saying that was another possibility.
yeah, no,
Oh,
it's one of those. It's just one of those things.
yeah, you're right. When I said back when we were discussing the building and the sunlight, these wonderful patients were believed to have the possibility of surviving. They would get sunlight uh, for pretty much the entire day just so they could get the fresh air, the fresh sunlight. And mind you, it didn't matter what time of year it was, they would put you outside to get you that fresh air. Which I'll show you here very soon. An example of that. You see how these beds are facing each other?
Mm-hmm.
This was a room, one of the rooms set up for those who weren't going to make it. They're like they just put you in these beds, made or did what they could to make you feel comfortable until it was your time. It's sad and depressing to see that you're just looking at other sick people, watching them, wanting relief, wanting to go home. This is their son, the ones who were could make it when they during winter. As you can see, there's snow, there's no leaves, but they are, completely, you know, bundled up in massive blankets, and they would only take a few out at a time, and they wouldn't stay out as long because it was too cold. They didn't want them to get frostbite or complicate things. But this, they at least were bundled up.
Yeah, if you're from the north, you understand the
Yes.
cold air. You breathe it so much better. It is so much easier to breathe cold air.
It,
And when you're talking about Kentucky in the summer, though, it gets hot and humid, and this is the era before air conditioning.
yes.
So
All they could do
yeah,
was
I'll
open up
take my
windows.
outside time. I don't care how many blankets. I'll take outside time in the winter.
Here's a kind of just a brief picture of what the nurseries look like. As you can see, the babies didn't really have clothes. What's the point of having clothes in a hospital like this when it just spread disease? So they just kept them in Pampers or cloth diapers, I think was at the time. And
Yeah,
um, and even some of these little ones didn't make it because they unfortunately were they are very susceptible to tuberculosis. Here's part of the children's area where they could go outside and play. As you can see, they had either white underwear or what have you. They were just sitting here playing around. Um, that wall right there is not as big as you would think.
I was gonna say, did we get the actual height of that wall?
No,
Okay.
but okay, if just in comparison, look at this kid right here, okay, and look at that wall. Sure, it's further back, but it can give you a kind of an idea or mindset. Even right here, give you kind of a mindset of how tall it is. It's not that tall. The reason I bring that up is because of this little boy, Timmy O'Shea.
He's the one who likes to play ball, right?
Yes, he's the one who likes to play ball, likes to play catch. He unfortunately was playing up there and was chasing his ball when he tripped, fell, and flipped over the edge tumbling to his death on the ground below. So he fell from the roof to the ground below, which is an unfortunate way to lose a little one, to lose anyone. Can't really read that, but tragedy at Waverly Hills. This is a news article. As you can see, it's the same picture as the one before the last. That talks about Timmy and what happened. How it was a tragic loss, um, how it happened, and how it affected the community and kind of overall morale. Here, it's gonna do that thing again. Um,
It's the first time this happened, everyone. This blew up huge, and all I saw was a very blurry picture of this light, and I thought it was like a floating blowfish or balloon fish that just a puffer that just it caught me off guard completely. I was
yes,
laughing for like 2 minutes because I didn't realize what was going on.
yeah. But in this one, this is one of those ones where it was after they had already died, unfortunately. They had cut them open to basically look at the insides, see how this was affecting the how the disease had, you know, progressed in the body. This is one of the pictures that they took to because they were studying it. They had to study it in order to find ways to hopefully either cure it or release some of the symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another one where they have the patient, of course, sedated. They have him opened up, and they have basically opened up the ribs to allow the lungs to, you know, expand. And they were in the process of doing the procedure. Here's what the operating room looks like today. This is how bad things have gotten. They are in the process of fixing things up, so now it could be different. But this is what the proceeds to allow those concerts that they had, but now it's just paranormal investigations go to is fixing things like this, repairing what is broken. This is their morgue. Just these three set of drawers that they could stash the bodies until they could bring them out and down to the body chute. And if these were already full, they just stack them in this room, you know, on their beds. This is the tunnel that leads to the body chute. I'm just glad if I was the one they were wheeling, I wouldn't be alive. Because this would freak me out. I mean, I could walk down there no problem if it wasn't me. But if it was, you know, your type of thing where it's just kind of creepy to be wheeled down, if that makes sense. Um, this is the death chute. As you can see, it goes down to an angle and is 525 feet long to where it reaches the bottom, which I believe actually it did partially collapse. So they've actually um, walled it off or sectioned it off down there.
Yeah,
So
I've
if
seen the walled off. I'm not sure why. I didn't know if it was collapsed or if they just didn't want people sneaking in.
that too. So it may have been an intentional collapse down there. Um, but yeah, they on this side they wheel the bodies down where the attendant would be using the stairs to get down. This is where you get a lot of the growling, the crawlers, or the shadow crawlers crawling around, the sense of extreme unease. Um, you get a lot of potential scratches, pushes from angry things. And understandably so, because this is nothing but death. This is just that's why they call it the death chute.
Well, think of the anger. You came here to try and get better,
Mm-hmm.
and you're leaving in a way that you do not get. That if you are lingering, you are angry. This is not the way you want to.
Be
This is
remembered.
not the way out you want.
Yes. Yes. Okay. These areas, these doors were rooms for those who were believed to be well enough to see the sunlight and whatnot. They'd be placed back into these rooms when it was time to go back in. Um, and on the other side is the area where those who did not would go to rest. Um, these rooms have um, a lot of history as well. There's even a room where one sister ended up in, and then eventually her sister ended up in there with her in the same room, and they often shared, just conversation, talking to each other. They loved each other dearly. One sister went to the opposite side because she progressively got worse, and the sister that um, this is where the imprint comes in that I was talking about. She did apparently survive, but her spirit lingered and still looks for her sister to this day. Wants to know where her sister is, wants to be with her sister, asks about her sister. Of course, here is a section that is very, as you can see, decrepit, broken down. They are working on fixing it so it is safer for people to investigate. Here is an actual image of her full body apparition, of her out looking around, and they managed to catch her glancing their way when they took the picture. But she's looking for her sister, and that's sad. Here's another shot of that. As you can see, some of the repairs have been, in a way, completed to an extent, but there's still lot more to go. Here's a section of the more internal hallways, and you can see that the dilapidation is so bad that water's even allowed to get in from rainstorms. As you can,
Now, you gotta remember, so many of these windows have been broken out
I don't think there's an
because
actual window left,
I
except for
thought there was something like the one corner from the pictures we were seeing.
yeah, like on the ground floor. But I'm talking about the upper floor. I don't think there's a window left.
Yeah, so anytime you get massive rainstorms like uh, the thunderstorms, the winter storms, the hurricanes, the water
Snow,
does more damage
then people.
than you can even imagine.
Yes,
Yeah, and I'm not even referring to the mold that will happen after the fact. Water will always find a way to get in and around.
and that is another problem that they're also having to face is the mold and trying to keep because once you start getting black mold that becomes toxic and you have to have that specially removed or by specialists. Yeah. Here is this open area is actually where the kids' beds would be, where they play, where they'd have their time to be a kid in the situation that they were given, which wasn't very great. And this doorway leads out to that patio area where those kids were playing and where Timmy O'Shea fell. This is a primary area where he is seen or interacted with, where he wants to play with you. And as you can see, it's pretty bad off itself. Here's another stairwell, but you can see that those are new windows. Those are definitely new windows. Um, but yet there's still, a lot of grime, a lot of dirt, a lot of decay, and deterioration. That's just one of the hallways, or one of the stairwells. I mean, some of the stairwells you can't even get up because they've actually collapsed. Remember when I told you about the nurse from 502? This is room 502 right here. This right here is where the light fixture was, where she hung herself. Here's another shot of 502. Now, they there's a difference between shadow figures. Shadow figures are hazy. They don't have definition or clear cut lines. So as you can see, this picture that someone believed to be a shadow person is not. You can see the flesh tone right there in the leg, if you can look close enough. There is definition lines of someone's dark shirt. That looks like a tennis shoe, a light colored tennis shoe, or maybe boot. But that is somebody. That's not a shadow figure. That's not
Though
even
I
an
fully admit,
apparition.
if I was going through pictures and I was looking,
Because, yeah, if you're looking and you just
uh,
see that, I can understand, but at the same time, it's got too much form to be a shadow person.
yeah,
And just like this, whoops, you see, this is actually somebody sitting on the ground with their knees drawn up, and they have print on their shirt. That's not an apparition.
they
Or
also
maybe
have light colored pants.
not, or it could be someone who may have made an impactful, but no, shadow shadow people apparitions normally don't look like that. They're in usually period clothing, but then again, maybe it's someone who died there recently. Hold on. Sorry, I had to sneeze. It
Well,
could.
then bless you.
Thank you. It may be someone who passed away, or someone who got hurt, or like I said, left an impactful significance within the building. But no, that's not a ghost. And this is what it looks like in the bright sunshine. As you can see, here's a reconstruction materials. They are trying to fix it, but that
You
is,
can see where the line of windows stops.
yeah,
Okay.
as they are, and as they're going, you can also see that they are trying to clean up the outside as well as they're going. I mean, sure, they're not gonna worry about brushes, you know, bush trees or little weeds or what have you. They're just gonna keep it away from the building, and then they would go through and do the landscaping after, because that's not as important as the building itself. Um, Unless it's a tree, because then the roots are gonna cause issues possibly with the building when they grow into it or against it. But yeah, that is Waverly Hills Sanatorium. What do you think?
Um, it's a fascinating place. If you're looking at it from the perspective of the architectural build,
Yes.
you understand that this is not the main house that in
Mm-mm.
because the way it is, that would be the connecting arm. The best way to put it. If you said that they made that one building was the and they were just making another building, they're trying to connect.
Yeah, this would be like the
There's no
center
way
hub.
that there's no way that's a connector arm. Not going up with those extra tiers, basically the castle facade in the front. Uh, though this thing definitely throws off either hospital vibes or school vibes.
Yes.
This is just the size of it.
It is
It's
massive and
mind-boggling.
very impressive. Um, it is. It truly is. Though, it's like I said, it's got a very dark and traumatic history. So you're gonna have a lot of activity at a place like this.
At least it
Spirits,
wasn't a prison.
yes. A lot of entities, residual, what have you, can be found anywhere, honestly. It's just they're more likely found to be in more hot spots than some random location out that you believe. And most of the time, those hauntings that are out in the middle of nowhere can be debunked due to pipes or what have you. Um, there's a logical reason or explanation for why some place might be you think might be haunted, but it's not. But then again, we don't know. They just might not be active at that time. Either way, I hope you all enjoyed watching Waverly Hills and listening to our podcast here. Um, of course, this was the redo for you. Um, we do this every other Sunday, so it won't be this Sunday, but it'll be the 6th of April when we have our next podcast. It'll be about Yorktown Memorial Hospital, which
Hmm.
also has a very dark and nasty path, and that is in Texas. Um, so definitely stay tuned for that. If you want to be a part of the conversation, you can find us live on Twitch. Um, you can reach out to us, leave us a message. You can see this on YouTube, where you can leave a comment. Either way, we'd like a follow on either one. More the merrier. Definitely helps out. Hit the like button if you like on YouTube, dislike if you dislike. Don't forget to subscribe there. And hopefully, we will see you next time.
Take care, everyone, and remember, don't go breaking into these places. Don't be trying to upset these poor individuals who are just trying to
Uh,
keep this place in the history alive.
yeah, because there's a number of reasons you don't want to do that. Besides it breaking the law, if you don't tell someone where you're going and you're doing this alone, how do they know you're there? If you get hurt or have a severe enough accident where you fall through and maybe end up dying, how do you
This is
know
one of those places that literally has a case of someone who is staying there, technically illegally, and dying
on
there.
premises? Yes.
Yeah.
So that's another reason why you don't want to do this alone when you go investigating. You want to be with a group and you want to do it legally. So that way you
Yeah.
have help if you need it. But until
So
next,
be
yeah,
safe.
be safe. Have a good night. Bye bye.
Take care.